So that's another layer of dynamics. Hopefully that all is coming to the speakers in a way that you can tell what's happening and feel. And then there's another thing about this halftime shuffle, things that I like to look at. One thing about the Rosanna shuffle is Jeff's dynamics at the beginning of that track. He's not playing all the subdivision, right? So I see a lot of videos, a lot of guys will ask me questions about, hey, is this correct or is that correct, you know? And I'm not the authority, but I have my opinion, or I have my style and approach, you know? And so, to me, there's a couple of key things about the way that track feels, and also the way John Bonham's track, Fool in the Rain with Led Zeppelin, feels, that Jeff was a big fan of, that used as an influence for that beat. But primarily, the thing that has the feel of that groove in it is for me, more this. So what feels really good to me about that shuffle is those grace notes into the downbeat and into the backbeat. It makes it sort of have it's like a swing and a slap to it. So that, you know, that's what I like about it. So when you put all that together, you'll get, you know, the beat that he's playing. Because I see sometimes, you know, as drummers, when we want to play that any sort of part into a track, you know, the tendency to want to fill every subdivision with our hands and start to create this sort of circular motion that keeps this repetitive pattern. I notice sometimes that becomes more the point of emphasis for some drummers that I see, because I think the idea of playing you know, leaving space according on tempo, you know, according to tempo, and the other instruments that are going on, it gives more space. You know, you're wanting to make your part complementary and supportive, and maybe even, you know, something that influences the other musicians. But if you're playing every single note that everybody's playing, then every note's covered, and you know, you just don't get that sort of breath and tension and release in that. So at the beginning of Rosanna, the one thing that I point out to people is he's not playing all the ghost notes. That would be all, and then what he's actually playing at the top is more like this. So if you can see, there's a little more air and space into that. And then as the song progresses, he fills in those notes more and more. Now, there's another track that is a very influential version of the shuffle, which is Bernard Purdie. Are you guys familiar with Bernard Purdie? So there's another one of my favorite things about the drums and listening to my favorite drummers play the drums in that beat is the way they all interpret it and do things slightly different. Bernard does something, if we're playing triplets, you know, which is the basis of that groove in the right hand. So if you were playing even triplets and the snare drum is playing the second, you know, triplet and after the backbeat, you know, the left-hand information that Bernard does sometimes, maybe without thinking, he's playing a 16th note and not a triplet, right? So that feel, I'll play the thing, I'll play it with triplets, and then I'll play a 16th note in the middle so you can get a taste for the difference in how that feels. The first will be kind of a note, I'll play no ghost notes, then I'll play a straight triplet ghost note, and then I'll play the 16th note, which is what Bernard's left hand is doing a lot of times. You can push it just a little bit and it turns into almost a samba feel. And if you know the song Babylon Sisters or Home at Last by Steely Dan, which is Bernard, a couple of great versions of that shuffle, it feels more like this. So that's another, difference in how you can play that shuffle. So with that being said, I'm going to play along to the track from Total Form, Roseanne. Now, one thing I'll demonstrate for you real quick here is how the snare drum pitch affects the feeling of the track. Because right now this is tuned quite a bit higher than what Jeff has on the record. That's another part of tone and the choice of what you put into a track. To me, when we play this song live now, we play it with a little bit heavier of a hand. We play a little more of a rock and roll edge to it. And so higher tuning on the snare drum, a little more crack, and that energy just makes the whole thing a bit brighter, but different. Not, the record is still sort of my favorite interpretation of that song, and so the snare pitch does have an effect, and I'll demonstrate that real quickly. I'll start the track, maybe play a little bit with the high pitch, tune it more like the record, and we'll from there. Thank you very much. You got to give credit where credit is due. Jeff McCarl wrote that. He wrote the book. So now I'm going to sort of approximate the pitch, and hopefully that'll translate to the room, and you can kind of feel the difference that mellower, thicker note, if you will, to the snare drum does to the track. If I could find the drum key, there it is, right? with that in place, we'll play the tune now.